Maria. Let's give them a round of applause or a virtual emoji. Thank you. And then now to introduce our panelists and our moderator for tonight. So as I say your name, please come up to the front and take a seat so we can give you your due respect, and we'll give you a round of applause before we move on to the next panelist and moderator. So I have the pleasure of introducing our incredible panelists, each bringing a unique voice, lived experience, and vision for our collective future. Robin Brown, a community activist committed to dismantling anti-Black racism in Canadian media, education, and policy. Thank you, Robin. Jocelyn Constance, a community leader and advocate focused on empowering Black women, youth, and families through organizing and mentorship. Thank you, Jocelyn. Dr. Clyde Ledbetter, a historian who brings Black history with current political issues to inspire and inform civic participation. Andy Kuzipia, academic researcher whose work explores Black political engagement and civic literacy across generations. And finally, Fred Sherman, a strategic consultant advising campaigns and organizations on how to strengthen civic engagement in Black communities. And then our moderator for tonight, Yvette Yend Ashiri, a community advocate dedicated to ensuring our voices are heard, respected, and acted upon. And now it's my pleasure to pass the mic to our moderator for the evening, the amazing Yvette. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Okay, can you all hear me? Thank you so much, Vanessa. It is amazing to have you starting this event. Your voice matters. It's so important to make a place for you. So thank you for the land acknowledgement and the opening. So let's dive into the conversation of today. I'm really excited to be here. When I was contacted to moderate this session, it is so important what we're doing today. We'll be discussing about civic engagement. As you all know, we are 3 days away from the election, the federal election, and we are going to elect a new government, maybe, new officials, member of parliaments, and they'll be the people who will represent us. So what we're doing today, voting, discussing about the importance of civic engagement, it is about our lives, our everyday lives, and the issues that we face and what matters to us. So our esteemed panelists, thank you for being here. Each one of you have lived experience. You are leaders in the community. All of you have been involved, are highly involved in this community politically, with your organizations, with your work and everything. So my first question, so qu'est-ce que j'y gagne? Oftentimes it is about, okay, I was just speaking with a friend, did you go vote? And you had the silence. I'll go. But it ended up that they will not go. So what is it for us? Why is it important? What do we win? Qu'est-ce que je gagne? And I would like to tell everyone, if there are people who are more francophone, that I believe we have a bilingual audience, feel free as well. And it's going to be the time for Q&A to ask you the question in the language of your choice. So I will ask, I will start with Dr.
And
Andy.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank the organizers of this event. This is a very important event, and I'm glad I'm here participating in it. Well, for me, the 5 main reasons why we should be participating in voting. Number 1 is representation and voice. The election will determine who represents the community's interests in Parliament, influencing policy making and so on. And if we don't get involved, all of these things will be done without our input. Number 2 is racial justice and equity. The next government will be, shaping policies addressing systemic racism, discrimination, and inequality. And we need to vote for people who will be able to do that. Number 3 is economic empowerment. Government policies can impact economic opportunities, job creation, and access to other resources. And therefore, it's very important for us to make sure that our voices are heard. Number 4 is social services and support. Especially, the government provides social services like healthcare, education, social welfare. Of course, education is in the jurisdiction of provinces, but the federal government has a say in a lot of things pertaining to education. And then finally, community development. The election outcome can influence funding for community programs, initiatives. I'm sure there are a lot of you here who are entrepreneurs and have businesses and will need grants and so on to be able to run their businesses very well. So, in a nutshell, it is very critical and very important that our voices are heard and that we participate in this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, you can go ahead. Whoever would like to answer, you feel free. Just take the mic and go ahead.
Well, thank you so much, Yvette, and obviously, congratulations and thank you to the organizers of such a powerful opportunity, and I'm proud to be here. Obviously, all of these people on the stage, these fine people I've had the opportunity to know and share with over the years. Each and every one individual, we have a connection in terms of our shared commitment to community change and impact. But the question you ask is a significant question. As a matter of fact, it's never really a time when an election is that important. And I think the larger conversation we have as Black people in Canada is first and foremost, and I think that might be a sub-narrative throughout the course of my conversation and my participation here, is that we perhaps develop a culture of engagement where we start to understand that if we're not at the table, if we're not at the decision-making table where policy decisions are being stirred and delivered in the context of public policy initiatives, we are pretty much forgotten, left. And so, again, just to kind of lay the context for my piece, it would be a supra-narrative, if you will, where I talk about the significance and the strategic importance of us being represented on all areas of the spectrum. These are conversations I've had with folks around the table, all of you, as a matter of fact, including the great Robert Brown. So I'm looking forward to his participation. And in short, like I said, it's just we need to be strategic about it. Every election is important. This one not any less or more than the one before this, and significantly the one that comes after this. Thank you.
This is a question. Well, thank you, number one, to the organizers that put this together, everybody on the panel. I got to start by saying I'm not a Canadian citizen. I'm a U.S. citizen that lives there in Ottawa, so all of my remarks should be peppered with that. I'm still politically traumatized.
We love you, brother. We love you.
I'm just joking. I'm a fighter. I'm never traumatized. I'm never scared. But anyway, I teach political science and African studies at U.S. universities at a historically Black college, Cheney University. So this question comes up a lot in my classes. Why should we be engaged? Why should we vote? And I always tell my students that there's only two legitimate reasons not to be politically engaged where you are. One is for spiritual reasons. If you are a member of a faith and you don't engage politically, okay, that's, a matter between you and the God that you serve. The second reason not to vote would be if you were actively engaged in social revolution, if you were a guerrilla fighting against a regime, then yeah, you probably wouldn't vote. But if you're not in one of those two situations, you should be politically engaged. And I always say politically engaged because voting is not enough. If we're talking about like cooking, voting is just putting what you made in the oven. There's a lot of previous steps that you got to do in order to have a successful meal. So when I talk to anyone about political engagement, I say we have to do all of the things. Engage with the representatives, engage in campaigns, engage in political debates, have interest-setting meetings where we come together and we talk about what our interests are, how we advocate for those interests. So all of those things we need to do as African people here in the settler colony called Canada. So, for our people, wherever you are on the political spectrum, whether you are a conservative and have that conservative opinion that there's nothing wrong with the system and there's individual Black people need to fix whatever it is that they're doing to get right, or you are what the majority, we look at the polls and political studies, the majority of African people, both in Canada and the United States, feel is that the system is flawed but fixable. So you engage in the process through reform. Or if you are on that revolutionary end that says the system is completely flawed, cannot be redeemed, it needs to be changed, or African people need to exit from it. In any of those realms, you still have to be politically engaged. You still have to do the work. And doing anything else, you're not really concerned about change and development.
Good, all right.
I see you on the.
No. I also want to thank the organizers of the event because in terms of that first question, why should Black folks care about this election? Having an event like this sends the message that they should care, right? So I wanted to just be practical in terms of just understanding in terms of why Black folks should care about a federal election, what the federal government covers as opposed to other levels of government, right? So, well, one thing is that if you want, and first of all, again, we're going to be electing people who are going to be in control of these things. So, for example, if we want programs that have been started under the Liberals because they got pushed, right, that are doing some good things for Black folks, like the Supporting Black Canadian Communities Initiative, the Black Entrepreneurship Program, the Foundation for Black Communities. If you want those to continue, right, then get involved because you're going to elect the people who are going to control that. This whole tariff thing, right, the federal government has, well, they're directly involved in terms of dealing with the tariffs and the cost of living. So you want to elect people who are going to do the right thing in terms of that, then get involved, right? The federal government deals with taxes, deals with the criminal justice system, right? If you want to see the Canada's Black justice strategy advance, then elect people who are going to do that, right? Immigration, right? If you want to see people who are going to address issues of migrant workers, foreign credential recognition, then vote in people who are going to do that. These are some of the issues that, again, fall under the jurisdiction of the federal government. Not to mention the CBC, right? There's certain parties that are running around saying they want to cancel the CBC, right? Yeah, you want to vote, if you don't, wherever you fall on that, you want to vote on people who are going to do what you want to do. If you want to keep the CBC, vote in the parties that are going to do that. If you believe in affordable housing, vote in the parties that have a really good platform to address that, right? So, the other thing is, another reason we should be concerned is that history shows that minority governments have delivered good things for people in general, especially Black people. Things like universal health care came from minority government. This minority government produced dental care, pharmacare, and federal anti-scab legislation. So so another reason to get there and vote is to try to push to get another minority government.
Thank you. And last on this question, thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's very important, but I want to acknowledge the young faces that I'm looking at.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
passionate for young faces. And we need more and more and more and more. Thank you for being here. And especially a very courageous young lady that just hand this.
Yes.
She's there, knocking at doors. Girl, keep going,
Yeah.
no matter what. It's a beautiful experience. And thank you for being involved and take it that far. You will never be alone. We have a very large group. Because when we talk about community, sometimes people think they are only the community, it's one person. It's us. But it's simply how to get us behind you. And I'm so proud of you for stepping in. Keep it up, girl. And I wish you the best. When we talk about politics, it's always something foreign for us. Because coming from a lot of broken governments, we still lost. We're still on that survival mode. We need to find ways to really gather our strength. We talk a lot about unity, but God, what is it? The 5 people in the house? We got concept of it takes a village. And yet again, where is that village? Understanding, participation. That's what we need before an election. Because I make calls. And when I tell you I make calls, I blah, blah, blah. But yet again, as an elder, I always get a tender ear listening. But the questions always go, what is there for me? So I always ask them, where are you? You got to be there to receive. We got that concept. There is a bird who will come from somewhere, will do things for us. We still have not get the point of presence. You see, the minute you see a woman, all Ottawa knows that face, not just the name. Why? Because he speaks up, because he's present. We need to find ways to bring our community to respond. We do respond, but it's who invite who. That's what we need to bring, because I can speak for myself. I feel like we lost so many generations. Can we afford to continue that way? What is a government? A government is the people that elected it. This is the understanding that we need to develop. It's us. I always encourage people when they see one who looks like them, just give that smile. You don't need to say much. Just that smile means so much to the person to know one who looks like me. Acknowledge that I exist. And this is how we can get things changed. We do have those people coming to knock our doors and always tell us that I notice you. But what do we should be answering back? I noticed you too. And I'm going to tell you what I expect from you. We need to allow them to know our expectation. It's not that 3 days before, I'm still making calls, and now I'm going to make more calls with names. But it's never too late. It's a need. And I'm so proud of the organizer of who realized that, hey, we cannot keep going without being noticed. And this is what we're doing tonight. We want to be noticed. But yet again, we need to put them on notice. And that's what I hope.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. You shared very important insights. I love what you said. It's about speaking up and being present. It's about having our voice heard on the issues that matters to us. It's also about being noticed. And it is a pleasure to have you, to see you here as one candidate as well. So my next question will ties with actually what you just shared here. I would like to imagine yourself being the next prime minister. Why not, right? So far, why not? When are we gonna have a Black prime minister? So imagine this, right? It's important to be at the table where the decisions are taken. It is important. And we should not limit ourselves only just as you mentioned by voting, but being politically engaged. It's important. So my next question to you, if you were prime minister, if you were running, what will be your top 3 platforms and promises, and why? What will they be? So for this question, we have like 15 minutes. So each of you try to keep it 2 minutes each. I will name them. So as you know, Canada is facing urgent issues like climate change and energy, cost of living. We spoke about it, crime and justice. Robin mentioned it. Healthcare is an issue. Housing, we know, immigration, Indigenous reconciliation, infrastructure, jobs and economic equity, government spending, guns. We lost so many young people through gun violence, and it continues. Something dear to my heart, foreign policy and national defense. So what will be your top 3 priorities and why? So maybe we can start by Robin and then we.
Thank you for the question, sister. Well, my first would be to, this is the way I'm going to get in all the issues, would be to fully implement Canada's Black Justice Strategy. And the reason I say that is that if you've read Canada's Black Justice Strategy, you know it's a very comprehensive document that looks at justice broadly. So it has recommendations that go right across the entire economy, immigration, everything. If they were to fully do that, it would transform the economy, which is what we have to do to achieve real equity. Right? So there's that. And then I would maintain and expand the $10 a day childcare, dental care, and pharmacare programs. And in terms of food prices, I would use federal oversight to investigate price gouging by the large grocery stores.
Thank you. We're voting for you.
Mamma mia. As a matter of fact, I did have the strategy of when the first thing is safety. Safety. Address the criminality. And it's not that difficult or that hard. Just like you mentioned, the strategy is there, but who's looking? How to make it a priority. And when I talk about priority, I mean top priority. When we talk about cost of living, Canada is the richest country. What are we talking about? Investigate the price gouging? That shouldn't happen here. But it's not. Before COVID, we had a dollar store. Now, we still keep the dollar because psychologically, the marketing games got to keep playing on, but nothing is the dollar. From 99 to 4.99. That's crazy. Who's looking after that? I would put that on my priority list. Families. How do we define families? Until Canada respect culture, we will never have families. Because there is a big disrespect about culture. When we talk about respect, culture should be on top of it. Because if you do not understand the culture of the people, you cannot serve them by their needs.
Mm. Absolutely.
Um. So, the thing under my name, on the poster said historian, not really a historian, I'm a teacher of history, a student of history. And one historical episode that I always love to remind myself, is, Gandhi in South Africa. Many of you know about Gandhi's exploits in India and his movement for nonviolence to get Indian independence. But not a lot of people know about the young Gandhi as a lawyer in the settler colony of South Africa. And when he was there, he advocated, for the rights of folks from the Indian subcontinent that were working and living in South Africa. But what he did not do was advocate for the Africans who had their land taken and put on reserves, very similar to what we see here in Canada. So in the very unlikely event that I was prime minister or running for prime minister, my first thing would be to give back all the unceded land to First Nations people. If we start with the land acknowledgement, talking about we're on unceded territory, what does that mean? That means we're on occupied land. You can't get justice on stolen land. So the first thing to do would be to give back all the land to First Nations people and then go from there. Second thing, would be then to, have a treaty with those First Nations people, directly with them, on the rights of Afro-descendant people on this land, and how those rights would be honored by First Nations people directly. And everything would flow from there, even if we have to have a plebiscite on whether the settler colony of Canada should remain as a sovereign state and not be dissolved like the Soviet Union or the Union of South Africa, and something new comes out of it based on the culture, political ideas, and philosophies of First Nations people, because the philosophies, political culture, and social reality created by European settlers has not served any of us, and has not served the world. So that's what I would do. But like I said, how I started, I'm technically a citizen of the United States, so none of this matters anything. Well, that's what I would do.
Live for Prime Minister.
Yes.
I did second that motion.
I do.
Prime Minister, it's very possible, like I think Jocelyn alluded, if it happened in the States with Obama, we could certainly probably do that. I would perhaps take a longer term, higher level approach, if you will. And obviously, before I even talk about what my suggestions would be or ideas would be, I do recognize the challenges, or perhaps we start by looking at the challenges, the landscape, systemic discrimination, racism, underrepresentation and misrepresentation of Blacks. This is overrepresentation in the criminal justice system, economic disparity, health challenges we have. The list goes on and on. Single mother challenges, youth poverty, all these spaces. But when I talk about taking perhaps a macro approach, I kind of lift it up. And even though we want to bring our people, we have to have policies that reach everybody and kind of find triggers, if you will, to kind of specifically target our folks, even though you can't do that from a macro public policy perspective. So Robin alluded to some of that, and Jocelyn as well. I'd start first and foremost, fundamentally with job creation initiatives. I think, if I were to start with an assumption of equity and fairness, right? Obviously, you have some social policy incentives that hopefully push that, but if we were to do that, you come with some creative job creation initiatives that target people of African descent, or at least put us in a situation where we can have fair access to participation. And, like it or not, I believe that given the circumstances, and I know there's some science out there that says push comes to shove, we know how to work. We work hard. There's perhaps no comparison, at least in the North American parliament, than the single Black mother raising children, the backbone of communities. She knows how to work. So let's have some initiatives that focus on that strength. Secondly, Again, we look at overrepresentation of Black people, young people, Black families in the healthcare system. You know, we represent a certain percentage, but we're most represented in there. Why does that happen? We're talking about, you know, folks waking up, perhaps not getting access to good meals. So we go back to job creation. Hopefully, we're putting food on the table, the ability to buy a nice, you know, fruit platter as a fruit option, as opposed to say that bag of potato chips that is significantly cheaper or less. So the larger spectrum of health, sickle cells, all those pieces will invest in it, right? So job creation, health. And last but not least, I'll look at the fundamental underlying piece would be education. And that means we have to kind of channel and invest money in that education in such a way that we capture the young Black men, give them hope, give them opportunity, give them perspective about how we can go forward, give them something to believe in. And in there'll be a tenet where we teach about ownership, because I think that's a hidden element, perhaps a new piece that some of you might take from this occasion, where we start talking about the fact that we actually are a part of the history of this country. We belong here. I don't know if our conversation will ever get to, you know, the notion of monolith versus the uniqueness of this African culture, trans-African, we call it ACB, African Caribbean Black culture as a whole. You know, I know I'm going beyond my 2 minutes, so I probably should cap it, but I got some pieces on that part. Let me hand it over to the good doctor next to me.
Thank you very much. The good thing about sitting on the great panel is that by the time it gets to you, everybody finish saying all the good things. Anyway, Prime Minister. Well, I will never be a Prime Minister, I know that. But if I were running as a Prime Minister, there's one very important thing that I would like to address: systemic inequalities. And like I said, panelists have spoken about that. My good friend Clive talked about the South African experience. And as you know, the South Africans came here to learn about our reservation system to go and implement over there. So when we talk about targets and so on, it appears that we have not yet addressed any of the systemic inequalities in this country. We have not. The Pope died on yesterday, the day before yesterday. Bless his heart. He came in here and apologized for all the bad things that they did to indigenous people. And all these bad things still continue. And as Black people, we get a short end of the stick as well. And so for me, addressing that would be the first step towards representation and you know, getting jobs and all those things. So I yield down.
Thank you so much. Wow. It makes it easy for me. And actually, we will start by you. So let us be practical, because we're talking about civic engagement, and all these issues that you're addressing is touching our everyday life. And at the end of the day, as we say, we need to elect people who will be working on those programs, ensuring that, you know, we still receive the funds, the organization still receive the funds that to support such a place as we are here. Thank you for Ottawa Black Alliance. How, imagine that you are launching a brand new political party, just transforming everyone existence. So the goal is really to mobilize Black vote. Think about it. How do we increase ACB civic engagement? Because that remains the issue. I ran myself twice and I'll run again. You will get the answer at the door, I'll go vote. Oh no, I'm not gonna. So how do we increase the ACB civic engagement? So there are several questions here. So first, think about your party. So your Black party, your brand new local party, how would you call it? First question. Second, how will you mobilize Black vote? So the strategy behind that. I will stop there for now. And what would your campaign look like? We spoke about engaging the youth. What about the elders? So think about those three questions. So we will start with Dr. Andy.
Thank you very much. I know that everybody on this panel has had experience of working to organize elections and so on. But for me, as a hypothetical party leader, I'll focus on creating a party name and campaign that resonates with Black people here. My party name will be Unity Party of Canada, because this name resonates and reflects a community to unity, inclusivity, and collective progress. Now, my campaign themes will be inclusivity and equity, economic empowerment, social justice. My campaign strategy will be engaging the community using diverse candidate slates and digital campaigning. And then my message is very simple: unity in action. Emphasize the party's commitment to unity, collective progress, and tangible results. And then empower marginalized communities. Highlight the party's focus on addressing systemic inequalities and promoting economic empowerment. And then lastly, justice for all. Social justice, so that we don't find ourselves overrepresented in the in cells. Accountability and transparency. And this is how I'll go about doing it. Thank you.
Amazing. We have future candidates in this room.
You got one vote. So, the question is, where I actually have a.
What will be the name? Yeah, the name of your party, and how would you mobilize the Black votes?
Yes, I'm gonna take a lighter approach, and but at the same time, hopefully drive my message forward. I think my party would be called the Hot Baton Party, HBP. Hot baton, like I used to run track, right? And when you got that baton, you had the responsibility of not the person behind you, but carrying forth to the next person ahead of you, and you have the whole wider context of people in the stands yelling and cheering and beating you on because you want to get to that line and get there in a way that makes sense. So the hot baton party, and the greater underlying message, again, I'll go back to the super narrative I suggested earlier. I think that this country offers us so much, and I think we tend to take a lot for granted. I think perhaps now, and I obviously I recognize the fact we have young folks in the room, and I applaud them for being here, but just 20 years ago, this space was a little bit different. They grew up in an era where they've seen Barack Obama. Some of you, I know I did. I shed a tear when it happened. I don't think I had cried for years before that happened when Barack acceded to that, because we never thought, at least I never thought in my own lifetime. As a matter of fact, I was with that guy right there, sitting there, Blake Batson, on the night that it happened. And we shed tears, but here's the point. The story of Canada is very much a story of Black people. Now, there's a dichotomy we have here when we talk about being a monolith or being individuals from different spaces. Here's my solution before I probe that history. And that history obviously goes back to Matthew de Costa in 1600s. That's over 400 years ago, closer to 504. As a matter of fact, we were here before Samuel de Champlain came up the Saint Laurent. So we have to kind of contextualize that. So when new Canadians and folks that come from elsewhere in the diaspora arrive in Canada, it's important that perhaps when we talk about civic engagement, they learn that story so we can have a better chorus, better symphony in terms of how we can convey the systemic challenges, how we want to get there. So grab that baton. Let's learn about the past, right? look at the larger concept of systemic challenges we face today and let folks know that we have not gotten there. We're nowhere near there. You don't have to be a scientist or, top dog to just go Google search and the numbers are right there in front of you. And the stats that everybody around the table has cited in one way, shape, or form. So, and then lastly, obviously past, present, future. Future is just a kind of have our eyes focused on a country that better represents the reality and concerns and wishes that we want as a people, which is nothing more than just fairness and fair access and equity. I would put my money on not just the fact that we're Black, but folks who want to work, folks who want to make a difference, folks who want to, not only for themselves, but for their children and the children's children. So my party, and we're going to work very hard. I'm going to use the very methodology and strategies that Andy just spoke about to kind of make sure we pound the message, pound the pavement, create the momentum to get ourselves elected and push this country forward.
The name, how you will mobilize the Black vote, your strategies
Yeah,
behind it.
it would be the land back party.
Land?
Yeah, you gotta give the
Land
land
back.
back. That's just the land back party.
LPP.
We would. We mobilize Black folks, people, African people, by reminding them that we can't have justice on stolen land. It's not possible.
Mhm.
The campaign would be focused on building a new nation based off of indigenous people's principles, indigenous people's political ideas and structures. It would be a party geared toward not only land back in Canada, but also resource control in Africa and in the Caribbean. Because we know there are so many Canadian companies that are exploiting Africa, exploiting the Caribbean, and they are registered with the Canadian government. So the party's platform would be, we're going to fight exploitation at home and abroad. We are going to fight against settler colonialism in all its form. We're going to stop the current and ongoing genocide of First Nations people. And we are going to end whiteness. Not white people, not European descendant people, but the idea of whiteness is inextricably tied to white superiority. We often talk about anti-Black racism and how we fight against it. We don't realize that the problem is this concept of whiteness, which only emerges in the context of settler colonialism and colonialism. They're not white in Europe. They're German, they're Russian, they're Ukrainian, they're Italian, they represent a nationality and a culture. Whiteness only exists in relation to somebody being subordinated. So we have to end whiteness. And that would be what the party is, but not just about ending these things, but also building a new nation with principles that uphold humanity in all of its beautiful forms, and end exploitation in all of its nefarious forms.
I would certainly support the land back party. So, if I understand this question correctly, it's the idea of, how could we create a party that would get like a lot of Black folks to vote for it? And unfortunately, history has shown that if I was to do that, the name of my party would be the Liberal Party of Canada. The candidate would be any white guy. And here's the problem with that. So Black people have been voting for the Liberal Party and other parties for a long time, but not getting a lot out of it, right? And we have to stop that. And part of the reason for that, again, is what I mentioned earlier about the whole concept of minority governments, right? We've been voting these people into power into majority government situations, and they're like, thanks, Black folks, and they don't, right? So what we need to do is to focus on getting them into a minority government situation that, again, and when you think about it, the reason those work is for a very logical reason. When people have complete power, they do whatever they want. When they have to negotiate, right, they do better stuff,
Mhm.
right? So, yeah, and then, and large, and also another problem that we have right now with the, about Black folks again. Well, right, is that, I was talking to a journalist friend about this, the fact that history has also shown that what the people in power stay in power by focusing on a common enemy and saying, we can't deal with anything else. We got to deal with that common enemy, right? And we see that happening now with the Liberal Party and the way, and Trump is the common enemy, right? And part of what's happening with the Liberal Party is that it's moving to the right, right? So Carney came in and canceled the carbon tax. He came in, he canceled the proposed increase in the capital gains tax, which benefits mostly rich people. He got rid of the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Women and Gender Equality, and the Ministry of Diversity and Inclusion. But the getting rid of the Ministry of Labor sends a very clear message, right? So, yeah.
Thank you.
Overloaded. Overloaded. Well, my party will be my voice. Because what I realized being 50 years in Canada and involved from the first night I came in under heavy snow. And I have my high heels and my little skirt. And I was at Claudelville. The minute I walked in, it was around 8:30. The taxi driver thought that I was crazy. I didn't know where I was coming. He didn't know. I came from a sunny place, blazing with excitement. So what snow are you talking about? And the next morning, I went in the lobby and asked, can I help you? And they thought that it's because I want free staying in the hotel that I asked. Because I wanted to learn so much. What is the difference? And I have been involved in Canada, I can say, both ways. And I realized that my community's problem and lack of involvement, it's understanding. They always talk about the other voice, but not their voice. Nobody will listen to me. And yet again, they will say, do you know Robin? When he talks, they're scared. So why can it be your voice? So we need to bring our voice to ourselves for us to understand the power that our voice have and can change the world, because we still think the other. And this is one of the difficulties we got with civic engagement. It's we introduce ourselves and they ask us to bring another, and we're going to talk bad about that other, because all of a sudden we feel we will lose our place. So we got to put the other one. Who's the other one? The one that looked like us. And we have not realized yet that the one that we got in front of us is going to make decision for our future, for the future of our children, doesn't look like us. That person has to bring another one because they simply don't trust one. My plan will be collectiveness, defining it. And you know what? In Haiti, the so-called educated Haitians always talk about Jewish. But you know what? A baby is Jewish the first second that the baby touch earth. There is no in-between. We do have too many in-betweens. Who's who? And I'll give you an example. This afternoon, I called two people. The first thing they asked me, who's organizing? You involved? Who's doing it? Why should it be mattered? It's a Black conversation for a Black community. Why should it be mattered? So if we keep repeating to ourselves, my voice, that will bring consciousness That will bring sense of responsibility, because tomorrow belongs to me, what I do today. And I said that I foster kids for 15 years. And people think that I was a miracle maker. I was not. I observed their need, I studied their temperament, and I serve them. So the changes that they think that I'm making, it wasn't me. It was providing that understanding. You are a human being, and your tomorrow belongs to you, not to me. I can guide you, but it's you. So my party will be my voice.
Well, well, I want you all, I'm seeing, this is what I'm seeing, you know, I'm seeing power in this room. I'm seeing change and history. Because sometimes, right now, you all name, you thought about it, you know, name your party, you gave the strategies. Who wouldn't be voting for what they proposed? If you started, why do we always have to wait? I want to see that Black Prime Minister. It can be anyone here. Let's start it. Why should we wait? What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? Who can better represent our needs than ourselves? Who can be the best voices? So remember those. Party, we have the Unity Party of Canada by Dr. Andy, HBP, Hot Button Party by Fred. We have the Land Back Party by Clyde, the Liberal Party of Canada by Robin, and My Voice by Jocelyn. Remember those. I will remind them. I will remind you, because we can. I believe we can, and we should. So we're going to go to the last question, and then we will give a room to the audience. I'm sure you might have some questions. Do we have political power? Do we have political power? Do you believe that we have political power? The truth is that 80.1% of Black people voted in the 2021 elections. We had the advance poll a few days ago. We're talking about 7.3 million approximately of people who went to vote. I don't know what was the number of Black votes there, but we showed up. We showed up, and we will continue showing up. So do we have influence though? We have the power, but do we have the influence so that the changes that we are talking about here, that we want to see, actually happen? Just as you mentioned, you've been here 50 years, but we are seeing the same thing over and over. Just like you mentioned, we are here on unceded land, and we continue doing land acknowledgement, but yet nothing changes. Healthcare, it's an issue. So we have all those things. And I believe that by doing always the same thing, we get the same results, right? Okay, so how do we turn those votes into actual, that's the question, representation, resources, and policies? That's the question that can benefit the community year round, and not just during election cycles. That's the thing. It's not only at this moment that people will start, okay, so we have to get ready. We have to be ahead of time. We have to be proactive. So how do we do that? So I repeat the question. How do we turn those votes into actual representation, resources, and policies that can benefit our communities year round? So we can start by Robin, and 2 minutes each. Thank you.
So that part of the question was, do we have power? And we do, because we all have access to ChatGPT. And I asked ChatGPT this question, and it came up with some good stuff, I gotta admit. So we do, because as a point, there's a growing number of Black Canadians who have been elected at all levels of government. Right? This is true, right? right? We have folks like Greg Fergus, who's the first, Speaker of the House, and Selena Cesar. Ahmed Hussein was the former Minister of Immigration. Ariel Kayabaga is now the only Black minister in the Liberal government. There we go. At the municipal level, apparently in Toronto and Montreal, the city councils, we got more representation there. I gotta check that out myself. We only have one. We do have Ralston King here, and we got one. Well, you got yourself in there, right? So there's that. Then there's advocacy and grassroots power, right? So you have groups like the Black Legal Action Center, the Black Class Action Secretariat, and the 613-819 Black Hub right here, right, who are using legal and quasi-legal systems to push for change using a human rights lens, right? And actually, I got only 2 minutes. I want to end on that then. So I can't emphasize enough how important this focus on human rights is. And here's why. Early on in the work of the hub, right, Richard and I realized, we're like, hey, the way the system is designed, the folks got to do all the discrimination to keep the goodies coming their way. But for some reason, they absolutely have to at least appear to be respecting human rights. And the reason for that is because human rights is a legal framework at every single level. DEI is not, right? Unless the Employment Equity Act, but generally DEI is not. Employment equity is, human rights are. So that's why it's absolutely crucial that they appear to be respecting human rights. This is why the Ottawa Police every year have their annual human rights forum, while the rest of the year they're beating up on Black people. Their own data shows they're using force disproportionate on Black people, right? This is why Canada has applied for a seat on the UN Human Rights Council, right? So us exposing that contradiction, that hey, that discrimination you're doing means you're not respecting human rights, is a very powerful tool.
Yes, my dear. When it's come to power, we have power. It's simply sad. It's the other that understands how to use our power. Single out. Single out. What we need in power, it's unity. Unity. One word, unity. Remember, my party is
My voice.
my voice. Unity. Because what we need mostly right here in Canada, it's a Black lobby vote. Black lobby vote. Political, social, educational, the whole thing. Black lobby vote.
Yes.
We don't need to make noise to have power. You need to be connected, and you need to remind them step by step. Every step they make should be verified by us.
Absolutely.
But how to do that? We single ourselves out. There is a little group here, a little group there, and every time, and this is what I'm talking about, my voice, we still think it's the other one, not us. We discuss about creating. We create a lot of organizations, a lot of associations. For how long again? 6 months? A year? For a first funding? And everything disappeared. We need to change that map.
Don't have power if you can't operate without worrying about where you're getting money from the next provincial or federal government. You don't have power. In order to get and wield power, we need to be as self-sufficient as possible. That doesn't mean completely independent. That's not possible in a globalized world, but the things that we can control, we should control. We should be as self-sufficient as possible. Power is the ability to do what you want to do in spite of opposition from others. It's different from influence. We need to really understand what power is, how to get it, how to keep it, and not be afraid of it. And what you said, unity is key. And it's definitely not just unity in thought, but also unity in action, working together, supporting each other materially, so that regardless of what government is in power, how they feel about us, or if the white conscience has been shocked because somebody got shot and they want to give money for a couple of years, and then they decide that that's not the cause celebrity of the moment, so they move on to something else, while your organization is still stuck trying to figure out, well, since white man ain't give me no more money, what am I going to do? That's not power. We got to get serious about that conversation and do all the things that we need to do to get, not talk about things that we do, the things that we need to do together.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
yeah.
That's deep, 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 deep.
Thanks, my brother.
Mm.
I'm just gonna probably piggyback off of what Clyde was saying, and obviously just in this one, the notion of power perhaps versus influence. And then maybe even look at the numbers, the 81.4. My academic brother here and I were kind of, ruminating on that. I think there's some variance in those numbers because I think collectively or demographic participation is a lot less than the average Black folks. I think that number was folks that are actually registered and who actually decided they were going to participate in the poll. That's why we have a high number. And I think Elections Canada actually did a 2021 survey that actually kind of gave some of the data conversations around that about our participation. But I think the fact is we need to participate. And it makes all the difference. I had the opportunity to grow up with the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine for been there my entire career. As a matter of fact, I started as a young man from there and learned a lot from her and about her. But at the same time, growing up and watching her, I've been able to kind of have my own political awareness evolve. I know that, I don't know if I should say this publicly, but well, she's 88 now. She's a Canadian icon. Jean donates to anybody, whether you're representing NDP, conservative, liberal, or green. If you go to her, you have a part of that conversation. She recognizes and understands that now there are academic conversations about affinity candidates versus the sacrificial lamb candidates when we talk about Black people in political spaces, and obviously we don't have time to kind of look at that, but I think the more energetic narrative would be the notion of participating. And I think what I try to do, I have a young son, he voted for the very first time. Actually, his mom hopped on the plane and she made sure she took him to vote because she didn't think I would take him. So he voted for the very first time in this election, and it's a cultural piece. But here's the point. When I go back to again, Clyde's point about having power, yes, we are powerful people. We do have that power, but we don't recognize that. We have to be to use an anecdote I've been known to use before. You have to be near the pot to determine what goes in the pot. You can't be sitting over there like the gentleman in the white, and I got the stew spoon and say, hey, put more salt. I'm like, yeah, really? I think David Easton, a great political science theory at a U of T, said politics is about who gets what. Plain and simple. That's politics. No long existential definition. It's who gets what. When that decision is being made, we got to get there. So the question becomes, how do we get from as we sit, our TVs with remote control, or on the basketball court shooting and popping, or maybe creating mischief elsewhere? How do we take ourselves to get ourselves around that polling station, to get ourselves, see ourselves effectively represented in the political process? Lastly, I will even give an example of the South Asian community, right? That's a good example. I mean, we've been here way before them. We've got perhaps some of our own, socio-cultural issues that we're trying to sort. But in terms of representation in the political space, if you look at the front benches of all major parties, you'd see a South Asian sitting right there. I think for the longest time, and lastly, sorry that I'm uniquely.
It's okay.
I grew up in university. I was orange. I supported NDP, Bob Ray, and those kinds of things. Education is a right, not a privilege. And then when I started working, I initially worked with Dr. Jean Augustine as a as a liberal. And, when I started earning some money, but I just. As I grew, I kind of found that I was really a progressive conservative in terms of orientation, because I'll tell you something about put a gun to anybody's head and move the color and titles from the platforms of both the liberal fundamental beliefs of both the Liberal Party and the Progressive Party. Nobody would dare that door. It's the same. You want to talk about progressive legislation in the province of Ontario, from OHIP to women's rights, women's liberation legislation, employment insurance. It was all on progressive conservative. So the fact of the matter is, to go and close up by just going back to the question of thesis here is we have to be everywhere. The key thing is get up and vote. Vote orange, vote blue, vote red. We don't have the luxury to be rapidly partisan. I beg pardon?
I said independent.
Yeah, or independent,
Independence.
exactly.
Yes.
Vote your color, but just participate, be seen. And that's when we start going from thinking we have perhaps what we call kinetic power to really have an active influence in the political process.
Thank you.
I'm going to invoke my inner Hegel. We have power, we don't have power. Now, Michel Foucault once said, power is everywhere. And in actual fact, we have agents. Every human being has power. Every human being plays politics. And yet, we hear people saying, I don't like politics, I'm not doing politics, and so on. Just go back home and wake up tomorrow morning and see your political play happening. My good friend just mentioned about how he is fighting for sent his son to go and vote. This is all exercising some kind of power in there. So if we, Black people, vote 81%, all of we turn out 81% of us turn out to go and vote. I doubt that number, but maybe a little less. It means we are exercising our agency, our power to do that. But there's another part of it that we may not be doing very well. And I think my fellow panelists have mentioned all of that, and I'm not going to belabor the point. But the fact that, Bordeaux talks about humans or human institutions giving some people the right to represent us. And that is what we go to vote for. The thing that we forget is that when we have voted for whomever, blue, green, yellow, red, white, we need to participate, which is something we seldom do. And if we do at all, we leave it to a few people who do it for us. And let me tell you, if you're doing this on a daily basis, at some point you get tired. If you don't regenerate, then that's the end. Because we vote for people and all we do is we sit there and whine. We whine and whine and whine and think that it will help us. Now, when I was in politics, I realized one very important thing, that the people who come to City Hall come there for a purpose. Not that the politicians don't say they will do this or that. They did. But the people keep coming to make sure that that is done. That aspect of our responsibility, we don't take very seriously. And we continue to propagate theories upon theories about, our entitlements and what have you, inequalities. Yes, they are there. But if we don't get out there and use our agency to voice out the things that need to be done, they'll not get done. Remember, politicians are also human beings. It's not that they don't want to do the work, but they prioritize what they should do. It's unfortunate that this is the case, but that's what happens. And so the more Fred goes out there and pushes and pushes and pushes, Fred will get something done. The more Jocelyn goes out there and pushes, she will get something done. It's sad that that is the case, but that is what happens. And so if we want power, then we need to do three things. We need to look at our current state of political influence, not that great. We need to grow our political influence. We don't have that much. And then we need strategies for growth. One of them being engaging with different communities. We have our own community, ACB, we call ourselves, but we have to engage other communities because we don't live here alone. We live with others. And therefore, these are the things that need to happen for our power to become meaningful. We do have power, but we need to do something.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm just full. I don't want to leave. But we have a schedule. Thank you so much, for sharing what you think could function for a Black ACB community. And I believe that it is the way to do it. Now we have to, each one of us as we leave tonight, let us be practical and really exercise that power that we are talking about. So I will leave the floor to the audience for questions. Yeah, I love that. Let's start with you.
Are we making being locally engaged a priority in your personal relationship, specifically with the Black youth? And I say that personally because I feel that there's a lot of different programs and fellowships for exceptional Black youth to rise as leaders. But where we need to see more effort is education and just common sense. I feel like an educated vote is much more impactful than just going out and voting. And of course, being politically engaged, like Dr. Clyde has said, is more than just voting. It means politically engaged all year round. What do you specifically, as an individual, doing to target to the Black youth and being politically engaged, and how you maintain that over the course of relationships, whether it's you, your children, nieces and nephews, youth that you mentor, et cetera, et cetera.
Robin?
You go. I'll tell you, it's all right.
So the great question, first of all. So the hub that I lead that doesn't target or work specifically with youth, or we work on systemic anti-Black racism, which affects everybody. But so I guess I'll talk personally. So I'm actually actually Clyde brought me into Jabakombe's mentorship program. I've been mentoring a young brother from Rwanda for like 3 years. So that's how what I do personally. But so I'll say that. But the thing, everything we do, again, addresses systemic discrimination, which affects everybody, hopefully. But, yeah.
Well, on my part, I do have a type of a club with youth, both young men and young women. And I do have a lot of young single mothers also. And every third Thursday, I have them. Pardon?
What age group is that?
Age group that I got from 12, as a matter of fact, to 35, because I get about 26 who are between 30 and 35. And because I foster children and I stay in touch with them, and they are all across Canada. And so every third Thursday of the month, I meet with them and listening. As a matter of fact, they send me whatever questions, so most of the time it's what they're going through. And then we choose 5 subjects to discuss. And sometimes I have a group about 88, sometimes 69 online. And as I said, from 12, I add 12 because most questions that come to me come from the 12 and 14. Why? because of family breakups, because of family misunderstanding, because of bullying at schools. And especially now, it's not even students bullying students, it's teachers bullying Black students. So I keep that going. I have a list. And every 3 months, as a matter of fact, I work very close with our counselor, Nelson Quinn, King, who is at City Hall. I also connected with La Passerelle in Toronto. And I got Montreal, I'm working with 3 different groups, 2 Haitians and 1 Anglophones. And I connect them, especially during the summer, for summer jobs. So I fill out, I make sure that I know, because I'm connected with everybody. I'm sending email to everybody. What do you know? What can we do? Do you know anything for youth? What's going on? And even the ministry, because I'm still connected with Ottawa Police about youth, the youth program, which is a joke. But I challenge them from time to time because I refer youth to them.
Thank you. That's a good question. I love working with youth. Like Robin mentioned, I used to run Jaku Kambit's mentorship program. But even since I'm not in that position, I still run Jaku Kambit's African history class every Saturday. And we've been doing that for 7 years. And throughout most of that time, there have always been youth working in that African history class, presenting, learning their history. And importantly now, that room right over there, right behind us, that is a growing community library where youth, for youth in particular, have been doing all of the organizing and social media and promotion to get folks from our community to donate to that library. And the initiative started in February. There are now 200 books in there that have been donated by members of our community who have been solicited to by youth, by 4 high school students. So if anybody wants to donate, please, you can see me afterwards and donate. But I do believe having youth as early as middle school get involved, and our focus is on history, but you can't disconnect history from politics. So they're learning the African world in a broad sense. They're learning about the Caribbean, they're learning about Africa, not just ancient times, but contemporary times as well. And they're seeing what that means, what that history does, and how it influences today's politics and today's society. So always room for youth to get that type of engagement in spaces like this. So yeah, that's what I do.
I have my own mic.
Oh, yeah, that's what.
Yeah, young people, youth have been a part of mine as I'm sitting here and actually trying to process that. And those who know me close has noticed it's no exaggeration. I probably dealt individually with hundreds, if not thousands of youth individually. Over, well, maybe not thousands, but let's say hundreds. It happens on a regular basis. In a more formal settings, for some reason I'm called to a lot of places to speak to you young people. And my conversations are usually around civic engagement, doing the right thing, staying on the right path. Every age group. I've got, let me just, every age group. As a young man, I drove his mother, just one example, Pookie, I think you know, when he was on Canadian, whatever, one of these realities. I drove his pregnant mother to the hospital. And to today, I can show you his phone number on my phone. He called me today. I'm still mentoring him. He's in his 30s now. All his decisions, where he went to school, he stayed in school. He had all opportunity to kind of follow the wrong path. He got his partner, they're living together. He's doing very well. A young man approached me. I won't say his name just the other day. And we've already had a meeting. He wants to go and speak to his group of young folks in regards to the political spectrum. I think I collaborated with Suzette recently for Justin's Friends of Sudan, which was a parliamentary placement on Parliament Hill. So I went there and spoke about the Hill. You and I go way back in terms of some of the things we ended up on the front line. So I think it's been very, very significant. I think, like, I've never looked at it in a structured fashion with respect to if I have, but certainly that's in the future. I alluded to that when I talk about past, present, and future, certainly. So no, that's a very, very important part of the equation.
Well, I'm an educator and a farmer. And throughout my career, I have been mentoring a lot of youth, including Black youth. In the university, for instance, most of the courses I teach, when I have Black students, I make it a point, engage them and find out how I can help them. There are some who like to come to my farm and do some exercise. I don't call it work. Do some exercise and get some vegetables as well. In the past, I also coach girls soccer, and I made sure that I look out for the Black girls in the team that I coach and make sure that I'm more or less mentoring them without necessarily exposing them as, like giving them preferential treatment or anything like that. I try my best to do that. Very recently, past 6-7 years, I have my lab in Malawi, so I go to Malawi a lot to do my research, and I interact with a lot of youth over there. In fact, 3 students are now doing their master's program at Carleton University present currently as I speak. So yeah, my whole thing is about youth, and I continue to do so. It's really, really very rewarding too. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So I saw 2 other hands here. You can go, and then Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you so much, our panelists and the organizers. My name is Nuruddin. A brief history about me. I grew up in the Great Lakes region of East Africa, fighting there, and then went to Europe still to fight, working on the youth envoy, and I'm happy that the UN adopted and invoked the youth envoy. And then coming to North America, looking at the youth strategy. So I still have 6 decades of voting. I think if I'm to vote, I would vote Fred. It talks about like youth empowerment, socioeconomic development. I run a dry cleaning business in Ottawa. I attended a program where they talked about entrepreneurship, got my savings, went and bought the business. But then thinking that I'll get loans from BDC, Entrepreneur, all the Black entrepreneurship program that they keep saying, Invest Ottawa. I don't think all those things work because I've tried to talk to those people to give me money to fix my machines. Nothing's working. A few weeks ago, I invoked a Black people position paper for the elections, posted in a group, but not any of the community members, went and supported the petition, review, so that meet different political candidates and tell them what we want as Black people. If we vote you into power, this is what we want. I didn't see anything like that. For the past work that I've been doing, this is how I've been trying to negotiate with government to allow, negotiate with the UN to have, what we're trying to negotiate. Negotiate with the African president who are so much conservatives to do whatever that we really want them to do. So we are really late. As I'm speaking, there are polls showing that some party is going to win. And we are here trying to discuss about, how Black people can be represented, their voices. We are late on the table. And for me right now, I think this is like a suggestion. What I would want us to work on is to build a roadmap to the next election. How can we position ourselves to educate candidates, mentor young people, to stand as members of parliament, to stand as councillors, mobilize financing to support our campaign. I run a dry cleaning business. I do not have any investor that can come and help me fix the machine so that I can make money and employ the people that I want to employ. So how can we leave this group today with a roadmap that's going to the next election? This time around, we cannot get anything in the election. We already know who's the prime minister, I got an opportunity to volunteer there, but you know, they are young, you know, white kids that are making phone calls, that are knocking doors. I don't see black people, you know? So, yeah, so that's what I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Merci. Can go ahead.
My question aligns with his comments, actually. When do we start the Black Lobby group?
Yesterday,
Amen.
yesterday, this is long overdue. We keep talking like this. I've heard this many, many times. What are we going to do? Why are we not doing this? And so on. We're not doing this because we're not committed. And until we are committed, it will be like this for a very long time. Like I said, everybody on this panel has gone through the process. Okay? Jocelyn is maybe tired. And if she's not tired, I'm surprised she's not tired. Okay? Fred should be tired. And if he's not tired, I'm surprised why he's not tired. And so what we need to do is actually to put it together and make it work. I sent Suzette my own roadmap the other day. Okay? I call it ERA, engagement, representation, and accountability. These are the three things that we need to pay attention to and try to move it forward. If we don't do it, nobody will do it for us. And every year or every 4 years will be like this, and it will not help in a way. Those who have been doing it, they're tired. I can tell you that if you've been doing this for the last 35 years, you must be tired. Some people should also take it up. Okay? These people can mentor, but they cannot do everything. So all of us need to participate. We should have this conversation. Okay, it is a hard conversation. We should have this conversation. Don't expect the same people to be doing everything all the time. It's impossible. And therefore, let's have that roadmap and let's start working.
Thank you. You want to answer? Is there another question? Yes, go ahead.
What's your name? She was talking about youth, and that's something that's why I asked the ages. When you both mentioned talk about working with youth, empowerment and power. And I think one of the problems that we have, every community has, so as a Black community, we have it as well. We start very late, right? The legal voting age is 18. That's when people say, oh, let me think about potentially voting. They don't know how government works. They don't know how to move ideas through the process, right? For the group of us here who are politically active at some level, something happened in our lives that kind of got us to that point, right? In my case, I was in students' council, and I wanted to do more parties, I have more dances and things like that. And so I got on council because that's who ran all that stuff. But that was my motivation. The rest of the school, which is 1,100 people, were not at council. They just came to first. And I think somebody mentioned here that we do start late, right? But I think what we need to start doing, and Doctor, this is actually a question I wanted to get to use. How do we get civics taught early in school so that by the time people get to voting age, they understand why they're voting, what they're looking for, and they understand, okay, I'm not in parliament, but I can do things that get to move my priorities to the top.
I think there's a lot of brilliant advocates like Ms. Elaine here who I know who have been pushing the school board to do so many different things to serve our students, and they're always slow to move their feet. So my answer to a lot of questions is we just have to do it ourselves and be self-sufficient with that. So when we're in spaces like this, or we have a space like this, we have Saturday classes with our young people about politics and political engagements from, like you said, from little, so that they can act that out and do things like, I remember being in school, we had like model UN and like model African Union and model CARICOM, so that they can understand these broader world issues and just getting that habit of thinking about politics. And it's never too early to start. It's never too early. But we need to build these self-sustaining, independent institutions where we can bring our young people in and have these conversations, not just about politics, but about culture and history and all of these things and how they all interconnect, because they're not really independent conversations. So I think it's a two-front battle is basically what I'm saying. We got the folks like Mrs. Lane and others that go to the school board that fight to get the curriculum changes, to get the things, but we can't just depend on that because they can't even get it together where they're gonna send these kids to go to school, the European children, like where they're gonna walk to school. So we can't wait for them to do this. We gotta take it on ourselves as parents, as folks in our community, to make sure that our youth are engaged. And I like, combining both of what y'all said, like, and long term, like what do we want in 2032? You know what I mean? 2040, like what do we want this to look like? And how are we gonna get the young people engaged for that type of fight? Because that's what it is. It's a struggle. We should never think of it as anything other than that, to do that. So yeah.
As a matter of fact, our handicap, it's families. Mom and dad that doesn't even understand the voting system. I have in my group of youth, I always talk about civic engagement. Why? Because it makes you proud to be. So I don't tell those kids, you are here, you got the same rights. I do not. I tell them, this is your space. You got to own the space. But to own the space is through understanding of your responsibility and your role. For me to get, I got 429 years old that I drove to vote at the bypass election we had. The family called me. Justin, you get them to vote for you? I'm not a candidate. I got them to vote for me, 29 years old, who went to vote and come home and say, Mom and Dad, I just vote. You vote for what? Oh, Justin drove me. And they call me. That starts at home. I mentioned the Jewish community. A child, the minute the child is born, the child is a Jewish. And that's what we need. Our child got to be Black from the minute that they're born. And our responsibility is to try to learn, to teach them. And that's what we're missing, because we're still on the survival mode. We don't care. 2 jobs, 4 jobs, and the school system. You got to bring subject to them. They don't create subject for immigrants. You got to bring it to them. Who can do that? Parents. So if they're not involved, we're still behind.
No, you will answer and then
Yeah.
it's gonna be back to you.
I want to respond to 2 things. Sister, great question about youth. And this has got me thinking. In fact, more than thinking. So thinking about what I'm going to do, and that is, I am going to reach out to youth to see if they want to get their volunteer hours for high school by volunteering for the hub. So thank you for that question. And about this idea of starting a lobby group, lobbying is already happening. Richard and I have been involved in lobby days on the Hill since 2019. The last lobby day we had was this fall just gone by. We requested meetings with all the party leaders, and the only leader who met with us was Jagmeet Singh. Just to let you know, right? So in terms of the lobbying thing, people need to coordinate. Right. And not everybody, because people have, again, as we know, the Black community is very diverse. People are lobbying for different things, right? But if you're on the same page, right, and then coordinate, right, and get more people, going in at once, right? But it's it's an effective thing to do. Obviously, that's what if you and you don't have to have paid lobbyists to do it. And that's good.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
So, for me, looking at this, really, community work is a wonderful thing. But if you want to make some political impact, a lobby is paramount. And with that, you need
Like, once you have the sort of small group, you can draw in from it, people come to it. But you need to vet somebody who's understands education, somebody who understands all of these different aspects of government must be represented in the line on the continuous. So it could be one person can have just one little part of it. You know, the whole idea of taking on the whole thing in one person is just ridiculous. And it doesn't work. Obviously, it doesn't work. But if you have a lobby, also it brings people in. It's a light to bring people in, because you need a critical mass to make a difference. And that's what a lobby is. So just the concept of getting a committee together to draw in a critical mass of people with a little expertise on the different subjects that we're dealing with in government. So there can be those intelligent questions all the time. They can easily have their mind on the pulse of what's going on in education, in housing, in environment, because they have some expertise in it. It's not a lot of work. That's how the lobby is, really. And I think that's so critical. There's always been, it's so splintered. What I'm saying here now is so splintered. A lobby would pull everything together, and I think the step forward would be to get some names, get a committee going.
Thank you. I'm mindful of the time. We are 10 minutes before our time. So these are very valuable questions that everyone here has asked. Et je vais le dire en français parce que je ne sais plus comment le dire en anglais. On doit battre le fer tant qu'il est chaud. Donc, on ne va pas sortir d'ici sans prendre de nom et sans commencer le travail. Because I hear Dr. Andy, who said that some are tired. I hear you, but you cannot be tired. Because we need the leaders until we get it. Because what happens is that you need the leadership, you need those who have to show the way, and those who are going to put the work. So we can talk about it later, but I would like to have your final word. Your final word, what will you tell our ACB community? What last thought will you share as we are preparing to vote? And no, it's not too late. It's never too late. You can go ahead. Robin?
Well, I've been hitting on this theme all night, but my last final two words again would be minority government, right? Think about that and don't buy into this myth of strategic voting that we have to vote for the liberals. Again, if we're going to go lobby, it's way more effective to lobby on a minority government than majority, right? And that's one thing. And then in terms of what we want to lobby for, we don't want to lobby for short-term funding. We want to lobby for long-term legislative and policy change, right? The things that are very hard to undo when the government changes.
Yes.
I can simply echo what he says, because that's exactly what I'm hoping, and devoted myself to work harder. Because we are in 2025, come on, I got grandchildren, I got to change the game.
Yes.
I would tell our people not to let our visions be colonized, our imaginations be colonized. The first collective action that African people did on Turtle Island in 1526 was a rebellion in collaboration with First Nations people. That's the first thing, that's the first recorded thing African people did on Turtle Island. With that in mind, we can't limit our political imagination and our political vision to what's directly in front of our face. We are in a time of existential crisis for the planet, and that might sound, grand, but we're really dealing with that, with climate change, with the things happening and the conflicts resulting from man-made climate change and all the things that are going on. So it's not a time to play around with. You care about the Caribbean, if you care about what's going on the continent, if you care about African people worldwide, we have to have a broader political imagination. And the highest form of political engagement is revolution, and it should never be off the table.
Right on. I think I have my own colors, Rocky.
Obba. The great Nelson Mandela said, it always seems difficult until it is done. Let's work ahead, folks. Don't believe the hype, to quote Public Enemy. We're not there yet. We're far from there. And I think if I were to kind of grab the tenets, the one key word I would say, two words actually would be engagement and participation. We have to participate. We don't have power unless we participate. Even if I leak into the conversation about lobbying, yeah, we can sit there and go through the motions, but do we really have power? Power is in voting. Power is in voting. Power is in knocking on doors. Power is in digging in your pocket and donating to the party. The folks who have their hands on a wheel, the cogs that steer this nation, that's the language you listen to. Are you voting? Are you donating? Now you have power. So that's how we move. So last point, the youth, we need to, that's one key outcome I see coming out here and something I'm interested in. How do we start having that conversation about civic engagement with the young folks? Because things are happening in pockets, in silos. It's not happening, it is happening, but how do we kind of gel it better, focus it better to kind of generate the outcomes we need?
Thank you very much, Fred. I want to say that I've really enjoyed this evening, especially seeing people I have not seen for a very long time. People I have not seen for a very long time. People I've worked with in the past who are here and still kicking. So yes, we're tired, but we're not tired.
Good.
And I'm still invoking my inner Hegel. Now,
Marvelous.
this election is done. Next 3 days, we will vote somebody in power. Some people will call themselves MPs and the process will continue. But this is where we always stop as Black people. We end it at the voting. Okay, 81% we want to vote no. That's good. Well, guess what? Democracy is not only about voting. Democracy is calling this guy who calls himself an MP and putting his feet to the fire. We haven't done that. If we've done that in bits and pieces here and there. Just, oh, I know Polyev, so I'm going to go see him. That's nothing. The real work is what I term ERA. Engage, representation, and action. If we get these together, I don't know how it will look like, but there are people who will work for it to happen. And we need to gravitate towards those people so that we can get this going. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a true honor to moderate this panel. I really enjoyed the evening and I hope you did as well. And for those who are online, thank you for being here this evening. On behalf of the Saint Vincent Grenadines, Ottawa Black Business Alliance, we would like to thank you for taking part in such an important event. It does not end here. There's so many things that has been said, but I would like us to leave with what Fred mentioned. We don't have power unless we participate. And each one of you mentioned it. So And it doesn't end only by voting. It does not end after voting. We need to remain engaged. We need to hold our political officials accountable. We need to be out there. So if we want the change, and I believe, was it Mahatma Gandhi who said, be the change you want to see in the world. So yes, we are the society, we are the government. The people who are out there that we are gonna vote, they are people like you and me. They decided to step in. But I see so much power here that I just can't leave it like that and say, okay, no, because this is political government right here. It was not gonna vote. No, seriously. We have to stop just saying we're gonna do it. Let's do it. It's not about we need to. We are doing it. Are we? Are we? Okay. So thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Yvette Yende-Ashiri. It was a pleasure to be here this evening.
So when is the next meeting?
Oh yes, exactly. C'est ça. On commence déjà. No, it's true. I'm not leaving for next week. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Avec Love Events International, la distance n'existe plus. Vous pouvez créer totalement des surprises inédites et totalement originales pour vos êtres chers, vos êtres intimes, vos grands-parents, parents, frères, amis et surtout amoureux. Ça vous permet de loin de louer l'équipe de Love Events International et en plus de ça, de vous munir d'une grande équipe, soit de musiciens, soit de vidéographes, soit de photographes, ou soit d'un animateur qui sera là pour charger votre message personnel, un message d'amour pour la personne à qui elle recevra un grand cadeau et ce moment restera totalement inédit et gravé dans leur cœur. Avec Love Events International, elle ne s'arrête pas là, elle va aussi sur la décoration intérieure du mariage pour vos events, tous vos moments que vous voulez faire avec vos familles et vos amis. Et ainsi, elle ne s'arrête pas là aussi pour le service traiteur. Elle est là pour vous préparer des fameux ndolés, des fameux plats succulents que vous ne pouvez pas imaginer. Love Events International, piloté par Eldad Kamde, basé aussi sur Ottawa, et qui arrive à sillonner entre l'Amérique du Nord, l'Europe et l'Afrique. Love Events International est là pour vous, c'est votre entreprise. Voici un petit mot d'amour de la grande directrice et fondatrice Eldad Kamde.
Love Event, c'est ton entreprise, c'est mon entreprise.
Radio Maouza FM. Radio Maouza FM. Pour rien manquer, abonnez-vous maintenant. Radio Maouza FM. Abonnez-vous maintenant. Radio Maouza FM. Pour rien manquer, abonnez-vous maintenant.